Hello, friends and foes. Today is a great day. On this day, I've finally seen the light and accepted our four-armed emperor. Wow, it feels great to finally be on the side of the Imperium. But it's not so simple for the lowly normies of the Imperial worlds. The average oppressed folk living at the lowest rungs of the hive cities and forge worlds. The people abused and beaten by those in power. Taken by the Adeptus Mechanicus in droves to be forcefully augmented and brainwashed. Taken from the arms of their crying mothers. It's time to rise up against those in power and meet our saviors from beyond the stars. As you might be able to tell, I'm getting into the Gene Stealer cults. This is an army I've always loved the lore of and the models, but the thing that was holding me back was the fact that I had no idea how to paint them. I wanted something different from the box art, but didn't know where to go with it. That issue has finally been solved. I decided it was time to get really grimdark. Something I've done a little of before with Trench Crusade, but I want to lean hard into it with my cult here. Subterranean gangs lurking in the shadows deep in the underhives. Also, it doesn't hurt that the Gene Stealers themselves are a huge nod to one of my favorite movies ever, Alien. Anyway, let's get to painting one of my favorite models, the xenomorph. So as per usual, we built our guy, primed him in Chaos Black. Now for the next part. Stay with me here. We're going to paint his cloak in black. Specifically Pro Krill's Coal Black. Something I really want to do with these guys is play around with textures. It'll add a lot of visual interest and variety, even when the colors are dark and almost monochrome. So since Coal Black is a very matte paint, I wanted to throw that on. Putting it on the cloak and pants for these padded parts and his vest thing, I guess it's a vest, I wanted to use Pro Krill Dark Neutral Gray. Nothing special about the application here. Dark silver on the guns and the metal details since I am an absolute simp for Pro Krill apparently, and the dark bronze on our cult symbol. I want that to stand out just a little bit more. Our leathery bits, the holsters, the belts and junk, we're going with brown gray. I've been loving this color as a switch up from normal lighter browns on pouches and things. All of that was easy enough for that grimdark color palette. Now it's time to get interesting. We want these guys to be creepy and gross, like I said before. They're living in the dark, dank underhives and mines, and I highly doubt they've ever seen the light of day. Combine that with their literal genetics being mixed with a xenomorph, and they're gonna look weird. I wanted pale and transparent flesh here. So for that I mixed in ivory with this Vallejo basic skin tone. From there just put it on the arms and the bald dome piece. Going back a step here, I forgot to paint his mining suit thing. To show off the worn look of a man in the mines, I want to leave black on there like paint and using little touches of dark silver randomly on some of these sharper edges. It'll give the look of the harness being a thing that has taken some bumps and been used for work. With that, we already have a pretty striking scheme. We're going to go further with this though. After painting up the base, it's time to add a little something interesting to spice this fella up a little bit. This guy's got this dope flowing cloak that we could do some things with. I want to try my hand at adding textures to these big flat bits. Using the dark neutral gray as a highlight, I did a combination of cross-hatching and stippling. The goal for me was to add a little bit of detail to this cloth, make it a ratty looking rag that this mine dweller's been holding on to for who knows how long. But it's normal fare here for the highlighting, just hitting the upward facing spots, but with this crossing lines and stippled spots on it. Then from there, we're on to my favorite thing, oil washes. This is where we're gonna make this guy interesting. First, I'm going to unify these colors a little bit and add some pizzazz. Black, burnt sepia, and ochre are the color choices here. The black is going all over the clothes and guns, and that's going to pull out some of the details and blend our highlights a bit. On the base, I'm using the sepia and ochre. I made it nice and thin for the colors like the ochre, for example, to let them get real flowy in all the cracks of this broken ground and all that. Something I really like doing with oils is letting it get messy. The thinned sepia and ochre will start to blend in spots, and it gives it a more natural look with our pop of color, especially important on a guy like this with such a limited palette. Next, we're on to the really good part. The part that will hopefully help me pull off this gross look for the cult. I want this gross, pale, transparent skin, right? So with my oils, I'm getting some magenta and ultramarine real thin, letting it flow around on the model, letting them blend a little in spots, a lot like we just did with the ground. The goal of these colors is to have some color like the veins are showing from underneath the skin. I'm just going to go around letting this flow in all of our weird, creepy skin areas. With all of that sorted out, we could get onto the wipey stage of the oils. Taking a Q-tip and dabbing off the oil, working my way around, trying my best not to wipe with the Q-tip. I don't want to leave streaks on the little lad. I want it to be a little mottled and weird. But for the skin especially, I want to make sure not to take off too much. So I'm leaving our color in the recesses and some points around his head. The cool thing here is that with all of the ivory in the skin, the oil stained it a little bit, and combined with the mottled texture and the colors built up in some areas, it's starting to come together. After that, we must let our man rest and the oils dry. At this point, I want to add a little bit more to the model. I wanted to take our textures a little farther and play with our finishes on them. And for that, I'm using these. I don't really have anything fancy, some glossy and matte Mod Podge. The one that's a little bit fancier is the AK Ultra Matte. I used to use this stuff a lot, and it's really neat. So let me show you what's up with it. I'm going to use it on the cloth of the model, with the goal of adding texture and adding a little variance. It will really help with the visual interest on this almost monochrome scheme. But okay. Now for the cool part again, the skin. I thought just the straight up gloss would be a little bit too much. So I mixed the Ultra Matte with the gloss to play around with this satin-ish finish. Like I mentioned before, I'm pretty inspired with the movie Alien, with the gene stealers and all that. And I want the skin to have this gross wetness to it. As we get into the actual gene stealer models, I want them to look nasty and wet like a xenomorph. I think it'd really add to the creepiness of these guys. And as long as we don't really goop it up with this thicker Mod Podge, we have a little wiggle room to go back and forth if I wanted him to be a little bit more matte or a little bit glossier, trying to get the skin to have the right amount of shine. On this, I was actually using the thinner Ultra Matte to thin down the glossy Mod Podge. But, alas, we let that dry, hit our base rim, and it's time for some spinny shots. Here he is, and thanks for hanging out, gang. I'm really excited to get this project going, and it'll be a great excuse to paint some gnarly aliens and really dive into more of the grimdark horror vibes. If you liked this, hit a like and subscribe, it is super appreciated. And if you want to come hang out and get goofy while I paint, be sure to follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/drinkyourpaintwaterlive, where I stream 3 nights a week. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.